Hey y'all, Tim Howe here, Motioneer First Class. Today we are learning how to kind of make these cool press, click, and hover effects, kind of like are shown here on this dashboard. Okay, we're going to be making kind of a simplified, much simplified version of this. But anyways, okay, consider supporting me by downloading one of my free fonts in the description, or buying a font, even better. Anyways, yeah, let's dive right in. All right, y'all. So I've already drawn some stuff. I could show you guys this one if you really cared to, but it's just a little more complex. And so I'm trying to simplify. But you basically see this is the complicated version of what we were going to build. But the basic idea just repeats itself over and over again. We have hover states, we have press states, and we have click states. So I'm just going to show you guys each of those in a much simpler way, just so we can understand it a little better. But once you have that, then you can kind of move ahead and do your own awesome version of this. Based on what we learn here, okay? So I have one built already. Let's go ahead and hit play on that. And you'll see when I hold press, it opens, it presses up, and when I let go, it comes down, and it doesn't matter where I let go, it always drops down, okay? So anyways, let's kind of build up to that point. But this click one is not built yet, and this hover one is not even drawn yet. So let's start there. You'll see over here on the side, I've got them named kind of in order. I've got a power bar, and then I've got a clip shape. Okay, so in this case, this is the click shape and the clip click shape. Here's the power press shape and the clip press shape. Wow, this feels very Dr. Seuss. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy and paste this over here. And we'll go ahead and call this one power H, because for our hover, and clip H for our clipping shape. Okay, so even though you don't maybe know what I'm talking about, I'm gonna move these over. Let's see, I have an X position here. Okay, and what I want is kind of what I have over here. And let's jump back to the design tab at the top left corner. Make sure we're looking at the design mode. And that is a problem because I was animating over there. So I'm going to drag this guy over here. Okay, and then let's just kind of look at what the goal is here, right? So what we want to have is this kind of nice power bar inside that's being clipped by this other shape. So this is my clipping shape, and this is my power bar shape. Okay, and I've already moved this down and scaled it up to 200% here so that it kind of fills up. And the reason I wanted to move it down is so that I could scale it, right? Now this is kind of a lazy way to do it. If you guys wanted to just move the anchor point down, you could just freeze your transformations. But for me, nobody's going to see it, and nobody cares. Okay, so let's get our hover state going as well. And it is already clipped, luckily, to this other one. But you might not have that, so I'm going to unclip real quick. Okay, and what I want to do is I want to grab my power bar that I want to clip inside of that shape. I'm going to come over here to the side where it says clip. And if yours is not on the screen, you might need to scroll down and find it on the right-hand side. I'll hit plus. And it's asking me which shape, and I can just kind of go over here to the side, and I think I can just click on, let's see, do that again. So clip what, and I want to clip that shape. Okay, and you'll see now it clips in there. Okay, and that's all. I'm just clipping this inside, and I'll move it up. Let's go ahead and change this to something in the orange category. Okay, rad. So yeah, so now we're set up and drawn, but you'll just kind of repeat that process with these other ones, clipping as you go. We're going to set up our animation first. So come over here to the top right to our animate tab, and then come down to the bottom left, and we should have a thing that says timeline 1. And so go ahead and rename that to empty. But we're going to then make a press state here in a minute. But the empty state is going to be just what it sounds like, right? We're going to zero out our bar. So like I said, I've already done the press state, so we just need to do that for the click and the hover states. So let's find our power bars. So mine is this power click. And I want this to be set to 0 in the scale settings up here at the top. Okay, and I'll do the same thing to my hover state, set that to 0. So this will all be my empty timeline where this is where it's basically like a starting point. Okay, and then we need a timeline for each time something's interacted with. Now, like I said, I've already made the press state, and it's going to go from 0% or 0 scale, I should say. And then at the end of the timeline, it's going to go to 200% on the scale. Okay, awesome. So that's all I really want to do for each of these timelines. So now that I have one, you guys can create a new timeline. I would actually recommend maybe duplicating this empty one, and I'll do that. And I'll rename this one clicked, but you can do the same thing for pressed. But I actually don't want these other things on here. I only want the stuff that I care about, which in my case is the clicked state. So I'm going to delete the keyframes here for the other two. I just want to animate from when it's clicked. I want to animate it from 0, which is already there because I duplicated it, all the way up to 200%. Okay, and yours might be 100% if you built yours differently. Okay, so I'll just repeat that process again. Duplicate this, rename this one hover. Come over here and get rid of anything that's not related to hovering. Okay, so I just need this power H, and I need that power H to go from 0, which is already there, to 200 at the far right side. Okay, so now I have my 3 different animations, and I have one animation that kind of sets the empty state, or sets the fact that they're all zeroed out. Okay, next up, let's set up our listeners and our inputs, and we'll be pretty close after that. Okay, your listeners and your inputs are found over here in the state machine. So come down to the bottom left and grab your state machine. And this thing might be closed up on you, and it looks like I gotta delete a couple things. Get ahead of myself earlier. Oops, I deleted the wrong thing. Okay, so like I've said many times, I've already had the press state built, but basically it shows that when I'm pressing this, it's gonna fire that it's being pressed, and that's what triggers the animations that we just made. Okay, so we still have to set up the animations here in a minute, but without these listeners knowing when the mouse is down and when the mouse is up, it doesn't know when something is pressed or not. Okay, so whether or not that made sense, let's go ahead and hit plus on the inputs. And a Boolean is what we have here, which is a yes or no, or a true or false statement. Is clicked would be another one I need, and the other one I need is hovered, also a Boolean. Okay, and then over here, let's just check what the listeners are doing. So pointer up, you'll see over in the bottom right corner is set to pointer up, and pointer down is set to pointer down. So and it has a target. So it's basically saying that it's listening for when this box, which is the box I pressed or box I selected, when this box has something being clicked, it's going to do something, or then we could tell it to do something. Okay, so let's set that up for these other two. Okay, so before I do much else, I want to find the box that I want to click. So you don't want the invisible one, the one that's been shrunk down. You want the clip shape, I believe, right? Because I would have to click on this tiny little nothing to get it to work. But what instead I want is the empty bar. So however you've named that, select that, and that's what one I want to hit plus on. And this one we'll call clicked. Okay. Now you might think I want one that says unclicked here, but it's actually a little bit weird, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But let's jump to the hover clip state, and we do want 2 of those. We want one that says hovered, and we want the one that says unhovered. Okay, cool. So the unhover states will be easy to set up. So let's go ahead and select the hover one I just made. And over here it says pointer enter, and I want it to be, yeah, I think that is right, pointer enter. That's what a hover is, right? And then under the unhover, we want it to say pointer exit. Okay, so that'll set the hover up. For the clicked state, I think we can just hit click over here, and that should be good. Okay. Now, like I said, I've already set up the press state. So what's happening when I press on the press one, it's showing that the pointer is up. And so I've set this up to say, when the pointer is pressed, set to false. So up means not clicked. So when it's not clicked, it's false, which means it will go back to empty. But when it is pressed, it is set to true. So and that's what we're saying. We're saying, is it pressed? It is when it's down. Is it pressed? It's not when it's up. Okay, so let's set the same thing up for hover. And this default state won't work for us, so I'm going to get rid of it. And we'll pop over here to the bottom and hit the plus sign and do change input. And we want, in this case, we want is hovered to be true when, and it's a little bit off screen here, when it's hovered, meaning when the pointer enters it, we want to set hover to be true. Okay. For unhover, we want to get rid of that one as well. Hit the plus sign here. and set is hover to false. Okay, because once it's unhovering, once it's not hovered, we do not want it to be set as hovered. I think this is making sense. Maybe I've lost you completely. Okay, the clicked one's a little bit different though, right? So again, I'm gonna get rid of this one. I'll hit the plus sign and I'll hit change input and I'll say is clicked. Now, the problem with is clicked is when I click something, I want it to be true, but that's not actually true, right? Because when I click it again, I want it to be false, and when I click it again, I want it to be true. So there's not really something like it pressing or unpressing or hovering and unhovering. Clicking is going to be different, right? And so we want this third option here at the bottom, which is toggle, which makes a lot of sense, right? When I click it, I want it to toggle between whatever my options are. And in this case, I want it to go true, false, depending on if it's clicked or not. Okay, so yes, and it doesn't quite work the same as the other two, but that's okay because we want a different outcome. Cool, so we're pretty much ready now, and we've set it all up. Now we can just build this last part. So because I already built the pressed one, I can hit play and you can kind of see how it's working. When I press down on this, you'll see it jumps to that other timeline here. And when I stop pressing, it jumps away, and if I can half press and it should go just fine. So the way that works, I've connected all these together. When it heads this way, you'll see I've set it up to have a 0% duration, meaning just stop whenever. If I set this to 100%, it's gonna tell it to play the entire animation before I let go. So there is a world in which that you might want that. But I don't want that. But that's what this looks like, right? It's going to play all the way through. Even though I stopped clicking, it's going to finish its job before it undoes itself. I don't love that, so I like the 0%. And then you'll see as I click it and I let go, it has an animation coming backwards. And you'll see I've got mine set to 200 milliseconds. If I set this to the default of 0, it would come up and it would just immediately disappear. So that's what we're setting up here. So let's jump over to, I'm actually going to make a new layer. We may not have done this before. And I'll check this as my clicked layer. And let's hit plus again. And we'll check this as my hover layer. Cool. So is clicked. I want to come over to the right-hand side. And I want to bring in an empty state. And I want to bring in a clicked state. And then let's set this up. So when it enters, when it enters, I just want it to be empty. And then when it is clicked, and so I'm going to click on this thing, I need to give it a job, right? At the bottom of the screen here, I'll hit a plus here, and it'll say if what? And we're on the clicked state here, right? So if it is clicked, then I want you to start animating to the clicked thing. Okay, let's drag this back the other way. Grab this little arrow. Same thing, we'll go to the arrow down here, the plus sign, and we'll say something similar. If is clicked is false, right? So this way it should bounce back and forth between these. So let's just double check that it's working. I click it and it works. I click it again and it goes away. But I still need to set up those last few things. So on the right-hand side, on the right-hand click, I'm going to set this to be 0% because I want it to just stop playing whenever I'm done clicking it. And then headed back the other way, I'm going to set this to something like 200 milliseconds. And so when I click it, it goes, and then when I click it again, it kind of fades wherever I'm at. Awesome. Let's set up the last one. Hover. I'm going to again drag in the empty, drag in the hover, set them up, set them up, set them up. Okay. Again, I'll hit plus. If is hovered is true. If is hovered is false. I know I'm zooming in through here, but you guys should get the idea by now. Heading this way, I want this to take 0% of the time. And headed back the other way, I would like to take it. I'm going to actually make this one faster, something like 50 milliseconds to get back home. Okay. And you'll see it's kind of snappy now. And I love the snappiness. Okay, guys, let's just double check that all this works. Pressing has stopped working. So, but clicking has stopped working, but hovering still works. Okay, so let's, I'm going to do a little bit of troubleshooting to figure out why this is. All right, so troubleshooting wise, it looks like my hover state's working fine, but the click state is working. Let's jump to the click state. So it is triggering and it is working through there. But when I right click and oops, I didn't mean to duplicate. When I right click and disable the layer, you'll see the click state's working fine. And when I come to this press state also, it's not working, even though it is, right? It's doing all the things it's supposed to be doing. So let's disable that one. And it's working. So something is getting in the way here. Now, I've had a couple of wrong turns happen in the past. One of the wrong turns I had was I was animating two different things at some point. I was animating scale on some and I was animating size on another. So making sure that that's not a conflict, making sure everything is the same. But I'm guessing what's happening here is it's my empty state. I have all these 3 in one, and I think I might need to separate these into 3 separate empty states. And then just plug them all back in. I think they're just they're kind of conflicting, and they're saying that maybe these other ones have to stay at 0 while the other one animates. And so I think they're conflicting in that way. I could be wrong, but let's just try it out. So I'm going to duplicate this a couple times, and we'll make one that is for pressing, an empty state for clicking, and finally an empty state for hovering. Okay, so the press state only keeps the pressed thing. The click state only keeps the clicked one, and the power state only keeps the power state. Okay, now swapping stuff in, I just need to drag in my timelines over here to replace the other one. So I'll start with pressed, and it looks like empty H is the default, so I want to drag in empty P instead, and you'll see it kind of updates. Let's jump to clicked. And I want empty clicked to be in there. And under hover should already be set up all right for empty hover. Okay, so let's see if that did it. So hovering, well, that always worked. Clicking is now working, and pressing is now working. Okay, so don't get frustrated. There is plenty of frustration to go around, especially with this layer order stuff. But if you guys are having issues like I did, just make sure that all your keyframes are equal. And then make sure that you don't have conflicting keyframe issues like I did, where it was, trying to be helpful in all the wrong ways. Okay, so we've got it. Now consider chaining this stuff together into this really epic version where I've just kind of double, tripled, quadrupled what we've learned. And now I have type coming on and off on different timelines. I have rotation instead of scale, or let's see, what do we do? Yeah, scale on that one. And I'm just kind of using all the things we learned, hovering and pressing in different places. And you guys should be able to make your own control panel. Okay, hope you enjoyed it. Hey, I hope you learned something. Again, consider liking and subscribing if it helped out. And we'll see you guys next time.